Pokemon Go took the world by storm when it was released in July of 2016, effectively inciting another wave of Pokemania. Quite literally everyone was playing it, trying to catch them all and hold the gyms for as long as possible. And then Niantic severely mismanaged the game, and about a month or two later nobody was playing it. The game wasn't pulled off the shelves though. It's been receiving constant updates all the way up to today. At the time of writing this, a major event, the Johto Tour, is 2 weeks away. One could say that the game has slowly been experiencing a comeback, in fact. While only about 2/3 of the people are playing compared to the peak of 2016, the game is making much more money than it did during the craze. There's also a lot more to do in the game than just catching Pokemon and holding gyms. In this video, we're going to be covering the major updates you might have missed that make Pokemon Go the game it is today. On December 12, 2016, new Pokemon were finally added to the game. Johto's baby Pokemon. For those of you who don't understand why people were annoyed by this update added 8 new Pokemon, but only 1 new line of Pokemon. 6 of these 8 Pokemon were weaker versions of already existing Pokemon, and the remaining 2 weren't good at all. A lot of people attribute the lack of big updates as to the reason Pokemon Go died after the summer of 2016, and it's hard to disagree when these were the Pokemon that were added after such a long wait. It took until February 17, 2017 for more Johto Pokemon to be added, and thankfully that update added almost all of them. March 22nd, 2017. Shiny Pokemon are now catchable. I should specify that I'm using the singular form of Pokemon here, as only Magikarp is available as shiny Pokemon. Even if you did find a wild Gyarados, it'd be impossible for it to be shiny, and that's still true today. While there are now quite a few shiny Pokemon available in the game, most of the time a Pokemon won't be released with its shiny form available. Shiny Pokemon are very common in this game too. Particularly rare Pokemon have a shiny rate of about 1 in 64, legendaries have a shiny rate of about 1 in 20, and the base shiny rate is like 1 in 500. Basically, if you hear people talk about shiny Pokemon not having any value anymore, they're most likely blaming Pokemon Go. The first Pokemon Go Fest happened in July of 22nd, 2017. This was an infamous event, but at the end of it, raids were added to the game. Raids are similar to gym battles, but with a few key differences. People from any team can group up in order to take down one super strong Pokemon. If you beat the Pokemon, you're given a set number of Premier Balls to try to catch the raid boss. Legendary Pokemon were also added with the addition of raids. One funny bit about legendary Pokemon is that most of them were terrible when they were first added. Even the best legendaries tend to be pretty expensive for how much of an actual upgrade they were over their normal counterpart. Lugia was the very first legendary added, and while the fan favorite still has the highest stat total in the game, its defensive nature, below average moves, and the 9% nerf to all of its stats meant you were better off using a different Pokemon most of the time. What's more, legendary Pokemon can't be put into gyms to defend them, so Lugia is hard locked to a role where its stat line disagrees with. At least, that was the case, but we'll talk about that more later. There was one legendary that stood tall amongst the questionable crowd though, and that was, who else, Mewtwo. Even today, Mewtwo is one of the best Pokemon in the game, and it's only getting stronger. But Mewtwo wasn't obtained the same way as other raid bosses. You had to get into one of the most hated aspects of the game, an EX raid, to catch a Mewtwo. With the advent of raids, some gyms became rebranded as EX gyms, where EX raids could occur. Even if an EX raid was happening at one of these gyms though, odds were you would have no idea. That's because you had to be invited to participate in an EX raid. How do you get invited? Well, it's very easy. Starting about a week before an EX raid would occur, certain raids would hand out some players tickets to an EX raid. If this sounds strange and stupid, that's because it was. Don't forget, if a normal raid were to start during your EX raid, it would be the EX raid that would get cancelled out. This family of raids had a bafflingly long lifespan, only ending during the Kufaning. And while Mewtwo was, and is, an incredible Pokemon, the follow-up EX raid mods were a bit more questionable. Thankfully, every Pokemon that was once exclusive to EX raids has been made available through some other method. The next big update came on December 8th, 2017, and it had 2 big things. First off were Hoenn Pokemon, but only some of them, 50 of them to be exact. This would be the start of a more controversial drip feed method of releasing Pokemon, but I'll discuss this more later. The other big change was the addition of weather. Around when the bulk of the Generation 2 Pokemon were added, the day and night cycle was also added to the game. But not much was affected by this. Primarily, it was just a way to see if your Eevee would evolve into Umbreon or Espeon. There were and are certain spawns that are meant to be more likely to show up during the day or night, but it's still very easy to find said Pokemon spawn during the opposite time period. Weather had a much bigger impact. Depending on the real-world weather conditions of where you were, certain types of Pokemon would become much more common, while also having a slightly increased IV floor. If it rains, water, electric, and bug Pokemon would come out. If it snows, ice and steel Pokemon are very common. While this was mostly a very good change, there was one weather condition that made the game virtually unplayable, and that was partly cloudy. This boosted the spawn rates of the already painfully common normal type, meaning your town would be overrun by Pidgey and Zigzagoon and the like. And at least from my experience, partly cloudy was easily the most common weather type. January 20th, 2018 brought about something big for Pokemon Go: Community Days. These are special days where, from 11 to 5 local time, one Pokemon spawns all over the place, with a 1 in 25 chance of being shiny. What's more, when evolved to the final stage, this Pokemon will learn a move it usually can't learn. These days are normally reserved for popular and or rare Pokemon, such as the starters in Mareep, but there have been a few oddball community days as well. One time Weedle got a community day, not because Niantic decided, but because Twitter voted for it over Pokemon like Ghastly and Squirtle. The moral of this story is that Twitter users should be rounded up and separated from decent society. We talked about legendary Pokemon before, but what about mythical Pokemon? How do they work? This question would be answered on March 30th, 2018, with the introduction of research. Research tasks are minor things to do in the game, like throwing an excellent curveball or catching 10 Pokemon, which in turn gives you a minor reward. The first time you do a research task each day, you're given a stamp. Collect 7 stamps and you'll have a research breakthrough, where you're given a much bigger reward and an encounter with a Pokemon. The Pokemon you encounter changes each month, and while this used to be the only way to get legendary Pokemon outside of raids, now it's whatever garbage Niantic decides to grace us with. While writing this video in February 2022, it's been almost a year since the last good research breakthrough Pokemon, and we haven't had a legendary research breakthrough since December of 2019. Anyway, along with standard research, there's also special research. Special research ties 3 tasks together with very minor rewards that all have to be done before receiving a slightly bigger reward. This process usually repeats around 4 or 8 times, and they're tied together with Professor Willow dialogue. Doing these tasks are important, as they're the only way you can get most of the available mythical Pokemon. The first special research questline involves catching Mew. One sucky thing about mythical Pokemon in this game is that, since you usually can't raid for them, the one you get through special research will be the only one you ever get. And while items have been released that act as candy for any Pokemon, and TMs let you change the Pokemon's moves, you'll be stuck with the IVs you get with no way of changing them. Thankfully, special encounters like mythical Pokemon have a 10 out of 15 max IV floor, but even this floor isn't enough to dodge completely getting screwed over. June 2018 saw the introduction of trading. You finally got that one squared away only 2 years after release. It costs Stardust to trade, with the rarer the Pokemon increasing the cost, all the way up to 1 million Stardust. But this can be decreased drastically based off the friendship level of the 2 trainers. You're not allowed to trade mythical Pokemon at all, and both Pokemon will have their IVs re-rolled when you trade them. But in exchange, there's a rare chance of being a lucky trade. This drastically raises the IV floor to the highest possible in the game, 12-12-12, while also having the cost of Stardust to power up. So it could really be worth it to trade Pokemon. I'm going to take this moment to talk briefly about GoFest 2018. Apparently it wasn't a disaster, I wasn't there, but you could actually play the game, which is a pretty big improvement over GoFest 2017. September 22nd, 2018 was Chikorita's Community Day, and probably the most disappointing community day at the time. This is because Meganium was literally just Venusaur but worse at the time, and Venusaur had the very first Community Day. But then this thing spawned all over the place for a couple of hours. What was it? Nobody knew, because if you managed to catch one it would turn into a Ditto, which was coincidentally Niantic's solution to if a player somehow caught a Pokemon they weren't supposed to. There were a couple of theories going on as to what happened, but as it turned out it was Niantic announcing a new Pokemon called Meltin. It evolved into Melmetal, and it's not obnoxious at all to evolve. Melmetal is a pretty interesting Pokemon in Go. It was basically built to be amazing for it. It had a good stat line that avoided the 9% nerf, it learned very good moves, and it was even a mythical Pokemon that could be put into gyms. The catch is you had to buy a $60 Game Boy game to catch the Meltan you needed to evolve into Melmetal. Eventually everyone will get access to Meltan and Melmetal, but it was fun being one of the few Pokemon players to have actually caught them all for a period. October 16th, 2018 introduced Generation 4 Pokemon into Pokemon Go, but only about a quarter of them, and 3 of them were regional exclusives, and one of them was exclusive to raids, and one of them was exclusive to 10km eggs. This is where the drip feeding complaints started to pick up more than Generation 3, but they didn't start to explode until Generation 5. The impact of weather was also reduced around the same time. While it's a shame that you can't find tons of dragons during windy weather anymore, I'd say it's worth it to find decent stuff during partly cloudy weather. 2019 was kind of a dead period for Pokemon Go, in retrospect at least. Not a lot of interesting stuff happened. They released Armored Mewtwo, who has different stats and moves from normal Mewtwo. He's worse than normal Mewtwo in the end, but I still tried to get one. I couldn't because nobody wanted to play the game. Generation 5 mons got released, and that's something. While raids were always a bit pay-to-winish, now Niantic got the balls to try to directly sell you a legendary Pokemon. Which legendary Pokemon did they decide to sell you? Reggie Giga! Complete with fast moves that ensured it would never reach its charge moves. Some Galarian forms, including Octagoon, got added to the game's files during this year as well. They didn't get released this year, but it did mean that there was Generation 8 Pokemon in the game before Generation 7, which I found amusing. Despite what I said seconds ago about 2019 being in a dead period with no big updates, there was a big update in 2019, and that was the introduction of Team Go Rocket. That's right, now there's an evil team of Pokemon Go, and this one is led by Giovanni too. What makes the fights with Team Go Rocket members special is that they have Shadow Pokemon. These haven't been seen or mentioned since Gale Darkness, which released almost 15 years ago now. Unlike in that game though, where Shadow Pokemon were super effective against all other Pokemon and were tools of war, Shadow Pokemon in Go were terrible. They were locked to the worst charge move in the game, being Frustration. They tended to have really low stats, and it cost more Stardust to power up. The idea with Shadow Pokemon is that you would purify them. This gave the Pokemon in question a white aura instead of a shadow one. It gave them access to the questionably powerful charged move Return, and it reduced the cost it took to power up. While the throwback to XD and Coliseum was nice, not many people cared about Shadow Pokemon. At least not yet. 2019 might not have been that great for Pokemon Go, but hey, it's a new year. That means new possibilities. And nothing, and I mean nothing, is going to get in the way of Pokemon Go becoming a great game in the year of 2020. Didn't something happen in that year? That's right! The Go Battle League! The Go Battle League is probably the biggest thing to happen to Pokemon Go, at least since raids. Now instead of furiously tapping your phone trying to take out a computer-controlled Pokemon, you could furiously tap your phone trying to take out another player's Pokemon, and they could be anywhere in the world. There are some differences between gym battles and league battles. Battles in the league are 3-on-3, with your goal being to knock out all of the opposing Pokemon. In league battles you can't dodge, but you can use Protect twice per match. The second charge move, which was a very niche feature previously, is now mandatory if you want to do well, and most charge moves have had their damage and cost adjusted. Finally, when you actually use your charged move, it doesn't go out right away. You have to build up its power by swiping some icons on the screen, while the opponent gets to decide if they want to protect or not. You can do 5 sets of battles each day, with each set consisting of 5 battles. It used to be that you had to walk 3 kilometers every time you wanted to do a set, with the first one being free, but that was suspended for some reason. There are 3 main types of leagues: Great, Ultra, and Master. Great League has a CP limit of 1500. Ultra League has a CP limit of 2500, and Master League has no limit. There are also special cups that are ran every now and then, such as the Little Cup, where the CP limit is 500, or the Premier Cups, where legendary and mythical Pokemon are banned. Before the Go Battle League got added, the Buddy system got reworked on January 2nd. I didn't mention it before, but not long into the game's life they added the Buddy system, where you could choose a Pokemon to earn candy for as you walked. This update greatly expanded the Buddy system. For one, you and your buddy could actually walk around on the map, and now there was an affection meter that filled over time with your buddy. Maxing it unlocked a bunch of small bonuses, such as your Pokemon being able to find items and even getting a small CP boost when it's your buddy. There's also your Pokemon's current mood to consider, which grows as you do tasks that builds affection in quick succession. If you can max this out, it will take half the distance for your buddy to find candy. January 10th saw a big wave of Generation 5 Pokemon added to the game, but that's not too important. What is important is that this would be one of the last big wave releases, at least until the time this video came out. After this, it became typical for one or maybe two lines to be released at a time, typically a couple times a month. And it's not uncommon for new Pokemon to be locked to raids or given extremely low rates of spawning. While it does keep people coming back to play, it also makes the general gameplay a lot less interesting. When Sinnoh and Unova Pokemon were first added, I remember my nearby screen being filled with silhouettes of new Pokemon. But nowadays it's the same Pokemon spawning all over the place. The biggest batch of new Pokemon released since was the Generation 7 introduction, and one of them only spawned in Hawaii, one of them was an extremely rare spawn, and two of them were exclusive to raids, but that's jumping ahead a lot. March 9th, 2020 brought about two very big changes to Shadow Pokemon. In exchange for having their defense stat cut by 20%, their attack stat was boosted by 20%. In addition, it was now possible to have Shadow Pokemon forget frustration and learn a real move through certain special events. This was an absolutely massive change, and it completely shook up the meta for raids and even some PvP. Now Shadow Pokemon weren't just flashy and slightly more economical versions of other Pokemon that you needed to purify. They were flat out better in a lot of cases, and purifying them would almost always be a step down. Now the legendary Shadow Pokemon Giovanni carried around weren't just another way to get a retired raid boss, but a powerful new Pokemon to add to your squad. Something really started to pick up steam around April of 2020, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was. That's right! That was the month they introduced remote raid passes. Tired of not being able to get your favorite legendaries if you live in the middle of nowhere? Now your in-game friends could invite you to their raids. Or, you could use remote raid passes to raid for a Pokemon in the comfort of your home. The only catch with remote raid passes is that, unlike the old premium battle passes, you can't stockpile them. It's impossible to get more than 3 in your inventory, but they're so cheap it's not really a problem. Also, as a side note, it finally became possible to power up Pokemon multiple times in a row instantly. Pokemon Go's anniversary was coming up, but there was a bit of a problem. For some reason, nobody wanted to leave their homes and group up to play in a condensed space. The solution to this was to make the 4 Pokemon Go Fest a global event. You still needed to purchase a ticket to access most of the stuff, but it didn't matter where in the world you were. So long as you bought the ticket, you could play in the event, which included bonuses like getting a Victini early and capturing a Shadow Mewtwo with a high IV floor. I'm pretty sure most people bought the ticket just for that Mewtwo alone. Hot off the tails of Pokemon Go Fest, August 27th brought about another big update. The fan favorite feature, Mega Evolution, was finally coming to Pokemon Go, and everyone was so excited! And then they found out how Mega Evolution worked in Pokemon Go, and nobody was excited. There were many reasons for this. Part of these complaints came from the selection of available Megas, at first being restricted to the Kanto starters plus Beedrill. But most complaints came from the fact that the system was very pay to win. To Mega Evolve your Pokemon, you needed a new substance called Mega Energy. There was and is no substance that acts as Mega Energy for any Pokemon like Rare Candy, so you have to do Mega Raids if you want to Mega Evolve. Mega Raids were also tied with Legendary Raids as being the hardest type of raid in the game, and you typically only got about 60 energy per raid when you generally need 200 to Mega Evolve. All of this worked for a power boost that would only last 2 hours, and then you would need to Mega Evolve again. And while the cost would drastically decrease after you Mega Evolve for the first time, it would only be for the one specific Pokemon you Mega Evolved, and in Charizard's case, only for the form you chose. Not too long after its introduction, Niantic introduced some changes to the Mega Evolution system. Now Megas last for 8 hours, they cost even less energy to evolve the second time around, and there are a few other ways to earn Mega Energy. But none of these changes have done anything to combat the other big complaint: the fact that Megas really aren't worth it. While most of the strongest Pokemon per type are Mega Evolutions, it doesn't make sense to power one up when you can invest in a legendary that will be almost just as good, is available to use 24/7, and can be used in PvP. Not to mention some Megas, such as Metagross, are actually outdamaged by their Shadow normal forms. October 9th, 2020 brought about a new mechanic similar to weather, being seasons. Now there would be certain bonuses always in place for a 3-month period, and certain Pokemon will be more likely to spawn during these periods. This as a whole didn't really have much of an impact on anything, at least for me. The name of the seasons generally show what would be coming up for the next few months, but not always. The Season of Legends only added a couple new legendary Pokemon, 3 of them being the Therian forms of the already in-the-game genies, while the next season, the Season of Discovery, featured a rerun of every legendary Pokemon in the game at the time. December 2nd, 2020 saw the first batch of Generation 6 Pokemon added to the game, but by now people were starting to recognize the patterns with the release of Pokemon, and many were becoming jaded. The starters were garbage and probably will remain garbage until they get their community days. Klefki was yet another regional mon, this time set in France, and Noibat was not only a rare egg hatch, but also had a 400 candy evolution to make sure the Dragon Tamer medal was hard to get. Of the Pokemon selected in this batch, the only one that was immediately noteworthy in any regard was Diggersby, although Talonflame would eventually rise as one of the most powerful Pokemon for PvP. Remember when I once mentioned that Niantic had the balls to sell people Reggie Gigas early? Now they're trying to sell you Galarian and Mr. Mime for $8. Believe it or not, some people actually paid for this. Now we're on to 2021, with the first major event being the Pokemon Go Tour on February 20th. Not to be confused with Go Fest, Go Tour was a celebration of the Kanto region. Kanto Pokemon were the only ones to spawn, the Kanto legendaries were back in raids with special moves, and all the Kanto Pokemon had their shiny forms available, including Mew, who could be obtained if you bought a ticket and finished the game's first Masterwork Research project. Masterwork Research is like regular special research, but it takes a lot longer to complete. It took me almost a year to finish mine, although I'm pretty sure I was an outlier. The next notable thing to happen was 2021's Go Fest, not to be confused with the Go Tour. This was generally seen as a step down from the previous Go Fest. Less interesting Pokemon spawned, the grand prize of Meloetta was a significant step down from Shadow Mewtwo, but at least every legendary Pokemon got a rerun in raids. The events afterwards were honestly more interesting, as they saw the addition of shiny Dialga and Palkia to the game, as well as the first batch of Generation 8 Pokemon. This is more of a footnote than anything, but September 5th saw the introduction of Hoopa to the game, as well as more care put into the seasons. Now each season has a storyline to go along with it. In this case it was about researching Hoopa. At the very end of its season it became possible to get its Unbound form, assuming you kept up to date with all its storyline. February 26, 2022 was the Johto Go Tour, not to be confused with Go Fest. Although similarly to the last Go Fest, this tour was seen as a step down from the first one. Unlike Kanto, which still has many meta-relevant Pokemon, only a few Johto Pokemon really stand out in today's game. Not to mention for a while the big prize they advertised would be the third Celebi encounter. Near the start of the event though, the two grand prizes were announced: Apex Shadow Ho-Oh and Lugia. These two legendary birds have special auras and stronger versions of their signature moves. The idea was to purify them to get even stronger versions of their signature moves and flashier auras. But the shadow damage boost actually makes them better as shadows. Oopsie doopsie, maybe you shouldn't have done that shadow update. Today, Pokemon Go makes more money than it did in 2016, and it managed to regain a sizable amount of people who used to play it, despite the global situation suggesting otherwise should happen. There's a lot more to do in the game, and it's probably my favorite game on my phone. I've seen some people even argue that Go has surpassed the mainline titles, and if it weren't for Legends I'd agree without hesitation. While more recent events have been dropping in quality, the first batch of Alolan Pokemon were also recently added, so hopefully the game can pick up some steam and regain its former glory. Welcome to the end of the video, where what I say doesn't matter because no one makes it this far. If you liked the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe and comment and all that. It helps the channel apparently. I don't really know what the next video is going to be. I have 3 ideas. One of them is another mobile game. One of them is a game on a different system, but I tried to make a video on a game on an earlier version of this system and it was a real pain in the butt. I don't really know if I want to bother trying. And the third one is another One Step from Eden video that everyone seems to love. So it's probably going to be one of those 3, or maybe it'll be something else. I don't really know. I'm not the boss here. So yeah, if you liked the video, please do all the stuff you're supposed to, and I will continue to do the things I am supposed to. It's a nice agreement like that. Okay, bye.